Everybody doing today? That is correct. My name is Cody Buchan, and I'm part of the team here at Hope, working with some of the students here. And the snow again is upon us, and the students tomorrow probably won't have school. That's what Pete said, not me. So get excited about that, except for Benedictine. I think they've had, have you had one snow day yet this year? Benedictine, two. They go to school. They're in the military. Yesterday was a beautiful day, and I'm curious, did anybody get to go golfing yesterday? Yeah, we got a couple golfers in the house. There we go. Troy, excellent. I would have loved to spend yesterday golfing. Like, I would have really loved it. But recently in my life, I am newly engaged a couple months ago. Thank you. Thank you. Really exciting. And yesterday was a day that I was really excited about. It was the wedding registry day. Yeah, I get that response every time I say that, especially from the guys. Because, yes, wedding registry day is in fact a mirage for us men. You build it up with pretty high expectations as to, I'm going to get a scanner and I'm going to get whatever I want. But when I showed up to pick up my fiance and my mother and my mother-in-law, I there saw my future father-in-law, and he just laughed at me. When I told him that I was pretty excited about this, he was like, oh, uh-huh, yeah, I'll talk to you in a couple hours from now. And it's true, it's a mirage, because in fact, you only get one scanner, and one person doesn't get to really hold the scanner very frequently. The guy doesn't get it. And I have a lot of eyes from the three ladies that I'm with as to what do you think about this? And it's like, I like it. Yes, okay, good. Or, no, I don't like it. And they're like, good answer. But thankfully, I was able to persuade them. They were very gracious to me yesterday. And they let me scan, which I'm excited about. It's an awesome cheese cutter. It's a sharp rectangle with a wooden handle on top. And it's got a black slate cutting board. And I'm pumped. But that's probably going to be the one thing on the registry that nobody buys. So if you get an invite, please somebody buy me the cheese cutter. So recently engaged. Everybody always says, what's the story? What'd you do? How'd you propose? What'd you do? So I'll tell you the story real quickly. It was about a week and a half away from, all right, I'm doing it. I'm going to propose. I'm ready. It's time. Let's do it. What am I going to do? YouTube. How to propose. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for a proposal. We got hot air balloons. We got airplanes in the sky. We have, flash mobs of dancing parties and parades in Disney World, like Cinderella in her castle. We have the Boston Symphony, taking trench coats off, and they're in suits and ties and tuxedos. And I'm thinking, I have a week and a half. I don't have time to do any of this stuff. And then I really started to think about, though, what do I want to do? What would my fiance, well, hopefully fiance, she says yes, what will she appreciate? Who are we? How are we wired? Because the world and society was saying, if you actually want a fiance, then you have to do this. Otherwise, you might not get one. Unless you can come up with something original and creative that gets you a couple million views on YouTube, you don't love her. I'm like, oh, man. So I decided, that's just not who I am, though. That's not how I'm wired. That's not how she's wired. So we just went to McAfee's Knob, which is in Blacksburg, Virginia, and we spent a lot of time there in college, and we hiked up early one morning, and it was freezing cold and dark and foggy and not romantic at all. But we got to the top, and it was we're both shivering because it's so cold. And she's like, all right, you ready to go back down? And it's foggy, you can't see anything. And I'm like, hold on a minute here. We're here for a reason. So I proposed, and she said yes, and that's really exciting. But I think this can be very true for us in life in general. That society and the world paints a lot of pictures for us for what we're supposed to be or what we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to live our lives. It teaches us how to be a man or what a real woman looks like and how she acts and how she presents herself. You know, what does it mean to be a businessman? What's it mean to be successful and to chase after success and comfort and items? And the world is always just throwing itself at us. Everywhere we look, it's media telling us this and telling us this and telling us that. And we start to question some of that stuff in our heart as to, well, if that's not what I really feel, then what's wrong with me? Because there's some times where I don't want to do what the world's telling me I should do. Yet when I see, well, everybody else is, I might as well. And I think Jesus does a great job in Matthew when he paints this picture for us. He's talking, this is his famous, the Sermon on the Mount. He's assembled the disciples. He's convinced these guys to say, hey, come follow me, and I'm going to teach you a different way to live life, a way that you'll actually find satisfaction, you'll actually find truth and purpose and passion. So he's been telling the disciples sort of how to live life, and he's given them some guidelines. And this is sort of where he starts to wrap up, and this is his conclusion a little bit. And it comes from Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. He says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." So we got a lot of stuff going on in this passage. We have two roads, we have two gates, we have two groups of people, and we have two different destinations. When I think of these two different roads, it's labeled as a broad road and a narrow road. So it's easy for me just to go to a highway and a backcountry road. You know, it's broad and it's narrow. The broad road. When I think of a broad road, there's a lot of freedom on a broad road. There's a lot of people. You know, the speed limit, it's flexible at times. You know, if a car in front of you is going too slow, you just pass them, you go around, you sort of do what you want. There's more room there. It's spacious. It's a little more forgiving. You don't have to have such sharp focus. There's a lot of people over here. The speed limit's higher. And then we have a narrow road. For anybody that's ever driven on a narrow road, you know that a narrow road is not as forgiving. You have to be sharp. You have to be focused. You have to be paying attention. When you see a caution sign and it says windy road ahead, you know you have to slow down or you're going to go off the road. There's caution signs. There's a narrow road. It's more directive. We have to be on our game. We have to know what we're looking for. We have to be cautious. Not so much on the highway, though. And then we have two different gates. It says we have a wide gate and we have a small gate. The wide gate is really inviting. The wide gate in society is saying, hey, whatever makes you happy, bring it. It doesn't matter. All your baggage, all your past, whatever, bring it with you. Come on, there's room on this road for you to bring all your stuff. All your problems, all your pain, all your drama, bring it. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to deal with that. Bring it with you. That's the wide gate, is inviting to say, bring it all. Come one, come all. And then there's the smaller gate. And if anybody's ever been to a national park or anything like that, you know that if you're entering into the park, there's usually a gate station. There's a gate guy or girl. And they're there and they're working and they're checking one car at a time, and it's a little bit of a slower process. They ask you, What are you bringing? What do you have in your car? What's your baggage? What's your stuff? And a lot of times they say, you can't bring that. That's not allowed in here. A small gate forces you to leave some stuff at the gate. You can't bring all your baggage. There's not room for it. There's not freedom in your baggage. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to distract you. You're going to think about all the stuff you've brought instead of enjoying the scenery and what's around you. And this is so true to what our lives with Christ look like. When we're on this highway, we think at times we're going to find freedom there. The more, the merrier. I can do what I want, and I don't have to worry about how fast I'm going. And then on the narrow road, David said 2 weeks ago, and I loved it, and him and Pete were in Chicago one time at a conference, and they sat down with the pastor, and he said to them, there's a speed limit to our soul. And I think that's so true. Because when life gets so busy on the highway, we end up in places where we never thought we would be. I'm starting to figure that out just a little bit as I'm getting older and older. I'm entering into this engaged time of my life and thinking about marriage, and now I'm not only responsible for me, but I'm responsible to care for another individual. And then you throw work into the mix, and then you throw even one middle schooler into the mix, and you are like, oh my gosh, I need a break. This is exhausting. So I get it. Life can get really busy. And it's easier on this broad road. We can cut corners. We don't have to pay attention quite as much. We can set the cruise control. We just give the kids in the back just anything that keeps them quiet, iPod, iTouch, whatever. I don't care, just make them quiet. Whatever it is, and all of a sudden, we end up in places where we never thought we could be. And there's many people on this road. It talks about the many. You're on a highway. If you've ever been to Atlanta, they have like 6 or 7 lanes of traffic. There's a lot of people. Society, that's what society is. It feels like it's all around us. Everything keeps our life busy. Sports, jobs, our families, everything. It's just busy, 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 busy. And we end up in places that we didn't think we could go much faster than we ever imagined. And then there's the few. There's few people that find this other road. And it's important here that we remember who Jesus is talking to. Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's talking to these guys. And he says, listen. Listen, the few of you. The ones who have said, Jesus, I want what you're offering. I want that. This life you talk about, this satisfaction, this purpose, this passion, that's what I want. I want this narrow road. So he says to these guys, and it's important because this is how Jesus starts this. He takes the disciples up onto this mountain, and he starts with this. He starts with this, and it's so important because he's saying, listen, disciples, listen. This is what the narrow road is. This is what you will find on the narrow road. I will be with you on the narrow road, and this is your reward. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So Jesus is telling the disciples in this moment, he's saying, this narrow road is harder. It's a harder way to do life. And when he's talking to these disciples, he then continues and says, but listen, I'm on this road with you. Few find it, but this was the road that I walked. Jesus is saying, this was the road that I went down. So on this road, you're going to find some caution signs that I left along the way. Because he knows this road really well. He knows the corners that have some loose gravel on it. He knows where the road gets slippery in spots. He knows when it's going to get windy and you need to slow down a little bit. He knows our lives. He knows the roads of our life. He knows where we've been, and he has a destination set out before us. He knows all of that about us. So he's not telling the disciples to hop on this road, but in order to hop on, you got to work hard. You got to get your act together. You got to clean yourself up. You need to be a better person. You need to pray more. You need to read the Bible more. He's not saying you need to work harder. He's saying, I've gone on this road before you. And all I want you to do is trust that I know the direction of your road. I want you to trust that I have a plan for what's going on in your life. And then it talks about the two different destinations. It doesn't say heaven and hell, but it does say destruction and life. Many of us in here feel that destruction, it's very real in our lives. We've felt it. We've ended up in places and we don't know, how did life fall apart? It got busy. I got lazy with my family or with my work or with what relationships in my life, and all of a sudden, destruction has happened. And sadly, sometimes part of this destruction isn't even our fault. Sometimes we've just been a passenger in the car, and someone else has been driving, and they have led us into some destruction. I work with students here, and I know a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of their stories, and it's very true, and a lot of us, I know that we can feel that this morning, is to know that we've ended up in places where we didn't think we could end up, and some of it is our fault, and other times we were just along for the ride, and then the car crashed. And we're feeling the weight and the pain of that destruction. But Jesus says this other road, though, this narrow road, this small gate, this destination that leads to life, that's my road. He's saying, I'm the one that created this road. I am the gate. It's come to me. Come to me. This isn't a matter of, are we working harder? This is a matter of our hearts. What's our direction for our hearts? What's our heart's destination? Some of us in this room are thinking, everybody around me thinks I'm on the narrow road because I'm really good at acting like I'm on the narrow road. But my heart feels like I'm on the highway. And others in this room are, you might be sitting there, this guy, he is on the highway. Let me tell you. You're sitting here, it's pretty clear, like, oh yeah, that guy, he's on the highway, definitely. And maybe you're on that highway, but your heart desires so desperately to be on this narrow road. Because you know there's a piece of you where you've been on the highway for too long and you're just looking for an exit. And sometimes in your life, you've been on the highway and it's you thought you saw something. You thought you saw an exit. You thought you saw some hope. And then distractions. And then maybe there's another moment and you thought you saw it again. You felt a glimpse of hope. You felt a glimpse of, is there another way to this? And then you're distracted again. My question for you today is, what's your heart's destination? Whether you're on the narrow road or the highway, or you're like, I think I'm a middle road type of guy. I like 301 in Patterson. I want to do that one. 55 miles an hour, 2 lanes, a little bit of both worlds. But Jesus doesn't say that that's an option. There's a lot of us that we wish that was an option. Like, yeah, my family, we're gonna go to church. We're gonna be good Christian people. We're gonna do that. Family, we're gonna do that. But when it comes to work and how I'm making my money, I'll sort of do whatever I need to do. My moral compass or ethics, I'm not as concerned with that at work, but my family will come to church. That's the middle road. But Jesus, he doesn't say that we have a middle road. He makes it clear that if we're searching for life, we have to follow him. Jesus says, I am the gate. He's the road. He's walked it before us. He's our destination. So I want you guys just today to think about, where does your heart want to go? Which road do you really want? A couple weeks ago, we had our student retreat, and we took about 250 students away to Rockbridge for the weekend, which is out in Goshen, Virginia. And I slept for 4 hours the entire weekend. But it was awesome. And the reason we do these retreats, the reason we do summer camps and we do winter retreats is because we want the students to leave their cell phones at home, to leave technology, to step out of the world and step out of culture just for a minute. And we want you to experience what it's like to live life on this narrow road with Jesus. It's different. It feels different. You feel alone at times. Because when you come back to school, you realize, man, everything that I felt on that retreat, but my whole school, all of my friends, no one talks about this. And you feel like all of a sudden you're back on the highway. But my challenge for you is to pursue the narrow road, because that's where real life is found. I ran into a student one night after we were playing capture the flag in a dark field with a lot of garden ledges. I think there was only 1 or 2 concussions, so that's pretty good. Ran straight off a wall he didn't see. It's like, you're okay? Oh boy, let's go to the hospital. He's okay now. He remembers everything. And so after that, I was getting ready to talk. It was Saturday night, and I'm preparing for my talk. I'm walking by myself, heading over to the club room, which is, just the big room that we meet in. And I ran into a student. And I had my flashlight, and I saw a student all by themselves, and I was like, hey, always have a flashlight because you never know where they're going to go. And I started approaching the student, and the student quickly turns and walks away from me. I caught up with him. I was like, hey, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? And there were a lot of tears. And I realized the student didn't want to talk to me right then, so I gave the student a little bit of space and just sort of followed them, and we eventually sat down about 10 or 15 minutes later. And the student's been on the highway for a while and really feeling the effects of that. And has been given a lot of labels from society as a bad kid and this and this and this, and just felt that. And felt that it's not who I am, though. There's got to be something different. And so my story didn't relate to this student that well with some of the stuff that they were going through, but I knew of a staff that we brought that had a very similar story, that had gone through a lot of the same stuff when they were younger, that was on the highway for quite some time. But then this staff found life, found Jesus on this narrow road, and was running hard down it. So I talked to the student, I said, hey, I actually have someone I think you'd love to talk to. And so I introduced them, and they had a conversation, and I saw them 30 minutes later, and they're both wiping tears and smiling, and I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was so awesome because the staff got to tell a student about, I get it. I know what it's like to be on the highway. We've all been there, and we're all going to find ourselves there at some point, but when we experience what it's like to live life on the narrow road, we're never the same. Because we know that that's what we were created for. That's what makes our spirit come alive. When we can experience Jesus in the life that he offers to us, life's never the same. So whether you feel like you've been on that narrow road and you found yourself back on the highway, or you've been on the highway forever, or you've been trying to do the middle road, I just encourage you guys today to think about what life would be like to live on this narrow road. Let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you so much for everybody in this room, and we know that you are the author of all of our stories. God, a lot of things in our life, they seem unexplainable to us. We don't understand how certain things could happen to us, how so much pain or brokenness could affect us. God, but you know those areas of our life, and you've brought us here together today. God, that you are meeting us here in this place, and that you are speaking into our stories right now. God, that you are influencing the roads that we walk on. Lord, so my prayer this morning is that you would just help us to increase our faith in you, that we would trust that you have a perfect plan for our lives. God, that we would trust that you are with us always to the very end of the age.